Hello and welcome to the first episode of Jillie's Bookshelf. I am Jillie Phillips. Let me introduce myself real quick. I am a neurodivergent and low mobility writer and singer-songwriter. I write poetry, fiction and nonfiction. I'm currently working on a spicy romance novel or two, as well as a dark paranormal romance series, the genre of which my husband has coined gormance. So what's the channel gonna be about? Why am I here? This channel is going to be a place for me to share my poetry, share the music I'm working on. I think we all always have our own individual healing journeys, and I was thinking to myself, over the past few days, I turned 44 a month ago, and I just kind of thought to myself, I don't want to get to 45 and not feel like I really made an effort on my dream. So I'm going to be sharing my poetry, my music, but I'm also going to be sharing stories about life as a neurospicy author and low mobility, because I think that so many times for those of us that occupy those spaces, it's so hard to even just sit down and put pen to paper, fingers to keyboard, voice to text even. And then we go through that process of, okay, I have this poem, what am I going to do with it? Or this novel, and will I abandon that? And I think we really need a space where, we talk about those struggles too. So I will also be sharing some of the ADHD strategies I have learned for myself as a writer. Also maybe just some other general random life hacks, because I'm also an incredible research nerd. One of my ADHD superpowers is learning all of the things. All of the things. The first poem that I am going to share on this channel does have a bit of backstory. When I was at the Sigma Tau Delta convention, and I want to say we were in St. Louis, I had to give a reading of my poetry. It was a thing that we did. This is the college version. It's the International English Honor Society. Shout out to the mega chapter. The story is actually related to that. So there was this one guy, this skinny white ginger from Alabama. And I went to his reading because, we love to connect with people, from different chapters from around the country. And so, we're sitting in the lobby. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this reading. We're like, oh, yeah, we're going to go. And then I heard this boy read his poems. And it was like a song. It had such rhythm, and I could feel the emotion that he had been feeling when he wrote that poem. Because I always say the best songs are the ones that you can listen to and say, I know exactly how that artist was feeling when they wrote that. So I'd been talking to him after, and I was like, well, thank you, and please don't come to my reading. He was like, why? What's the matter? And I said, I don't like reading my poetry in public. I do a lot of community theater, and so what I did say was, I would rather be naked on a stage than read my poetry in public. So Matt says to me, well, you do a lot of theater, then you're an actress. I said, yeah. I said, but it is way easier when it's somebody else's words and not my own. And he said, well, but every time you step on stage, you're a different character. So why don't you just think of each poem as a different character? And I was like, problem solved. Pretty much. I mean, honestly, that I think was the best advice that I have ever gotten about reading in public, no matter what I'm reading. And the thing I love about Matt's advice, his name is Matthew Kemp. So, hi, Matt. Hi, Naomi. Love you guys. 15 years later, I've done several dozen readings, and I get complimented pretty consistently on the way that I read my work. And so anyway, one of the things I'm going to be doing with the poems and songs that I share is I will be giving more insight and backstory into where the poem actually came from, anything I was specifically trying to work on, because I think that craft books are fantastic, but I think sometimes can really help see how a poem developed. Music as well. So without further ado, I did record this previously because this poem's just really hard to read. My tongue kept tripping over it. So I'm actually just going to use the best take that I got from the other day of On Pathos. On Pathos. There is an effort to feeling, poem after poem, to keep emoting, emote like boat on water, tidal wave, the struggle to stay afloat, float the poem. Keep a rubber band on your wrist to snap when you're feeling numb, still a feeling, or when you're feeling too much, which can be dangerous for poets. Feel balance. Try anything to feel like everything I am keen to feel, except feel sounds like peel, and I'm too much in my skin to flay or slay the keening, which is another word for feeling too much and reeling. But stay up. Fly like bird or kite with all your strings struggling to soar when you're sore from all the feeling. Wind is everywhere, breezing like breathing, and you have to keep breathing to keep feeling. And it's the air and the water and the snapping and the peeling that you keep doing to stay alive for one more poem that's so exhausting. It's effort. It is labor to labor a poem into being. Breathe. The pain snaps, peels glorious layers away. Clarity feels like okay, so I hope you liked On Pathos. So some background on that poem, because like I said, I'm going to talk about the craft of it. My first mentor at the University of Nebraska at Omaha's MFA in writing program was Leanne Roripaugh, who I absolutely adore. She is like a ball of sunshine. She had introduced me to the girlesque kind of movement genre of poetry. There is an anthology, you should look it up. It's called Girlesque. It's spelled like burlesque, but with a G. And it's incredible. And I discovered so many inspiring poets just from that one anthology. God, Danielle Pafunda, Mithia Harvey, Lara Glenham, Ariel Greenberg. So many amazing poets. As I said before, I love the Gormance genre of PNR. So if you think of what Gormance would be if it was poetry, that's kind of my vibe. So On Pathos was kind of my experiment and my first kind of foray into, I'm going to start writing about real shit. Because the double-edged sword of being a neurodivergent artist, whether you're creating music, visual media, poetry, literature, if you are a writer with any sort of chronic illness or neurodivergence or pretty much any sort of trauma or PTSD that you're dealing with, it can be such a great source of information, and it can really suck knowing that, like, damn, my best work comes out when I feel like crap. So On Pathos was kind of my way of saying, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this and I'm going to focus on it, but also I need to say right now, I don't like it. It sucks. Like, it does. It does. Like, having the darkness within you be your greatest source of inspiration. I mean, even Lady Gaga's mother had said how hard it is for her sometimes when Gaga's working on an album, because she isolates herself and goes to the dark place so that she can write music and make sure that it feels real and genuine to her. So as far as the structure of the poem, as far as the sound goes, I really wanted to, again, kind of channel a little bit of my friend Matt Kemp and write a poem that I purposely intended to be able to read out loud. Again, love me, my Leanne Rorapah. She had given a lecture at one of our residencies. I'm pretty sure it was her. If I'm wrong, someone from the MFA program, correct me. But this lecture had been about essentially using linguistics to be able to create slant rhymes and create rhythm and develop an ebb and flow to poetry. So as far as the rhythm goes, that was why I chose the long E sound. I used the ing words. They're easy enough words to roll off the tongue, but they still sound, even if they're not the same, they sound the same. So you have the flaying and the slaying and the reeling and the peeling and the feeling. You have the keening. And one of the things that I had learned also is that from a linguistic standpoint, you can create those slant rhymes and those rhythms as long as what your mouth is doing is the same. So, for instance, I have the rhyme breezing and breathing. Now, normally, those don't rhyme, but because they both have that long E, so we have the same vowel sound, and linguistically, you have a Z and you have a V. And both of those sounds end with a similar mouth formation. because the breath continues through the sound. So you could think of something like cat and back. Again, those are decent slant rhymes to use, right? Because you have that ah in there. But even though a T and a CK do not rhyme, both the T and the K sounds involve a vocal stop. You say cat and the sound stops. But if I was to say cash, again, that's a sound. Those don't go together because even though that A vowel is the same, your mouth is ending up in a different position. So, yes, that is how deeply I dived into linguistic sounds. Thank God I paid attention in that one class I hated in college, because I did actually learn a lot. So that is how I crafted on Pathos. As I wrote it, because I do prefer to write my poetry longhand, I also spoke it out loud as I was reading. So that is a good strategy for those of you that are trying to develop a little more character, a little more rhythm, making sure that everything is sort of making sense. Because, damn it, Matt Kemp, as you said, poetry is meant to be read out loud. So thank you for joining me for the first episode. How did that happen, by the way? Well, thanks to my neurodivergence, I somehow managed to record a 29-minute episode and somehow never actually turned the microphone on. Oops. So if you want to support my writing journey, you can hit the like and subscribe button down below. It costs you nothing to do so. If you do want to throw, a couple bucks a writer's way, I do have a Patreon with exclusive content, including digital downloads. There will be pre-releases of my music that you'll be able to download before they go up on Spotify. I also have some goodies that will be sent in the mail, as well as other exclusive content like work that I have in progress if you want to follow along with what I'm writing, as well as advanced reader copies. So thank you again so much for joining me on Jillie's bookshelf. Hopefully only the first of many. Bye.